Content warning. This episode discusses image-based sexual abuse and includes language that some listeners may find distressing. I'm here, halfway across the world, to watch a ballet. But not just any ballet. It's George Balanchine's adaptation of The Nutcracker. The stage is cast in a dazzling snow-white glow. The costumes glisten under the spotlights. And the dancers, both adults and children, move with breathtaking grace. I'm forever in awe of ballet. The way the dancers fuse grace and strength, raw physicality and complex storytelling, pushing the boundaries of movement to express things that words cannot often convey. Ballet is a reminder of the beauty and vulnerability of the human mind and body. The joy it brings me is hard to put into words. It's a dream to be here. I keep thinking of all the people who have performed these dances before on this stage under these lights.
There was one performance of the Nutcracker. I was probably 8 years old at this time.
And, we would grow up going to the Nutcracker every year.
And he cast me as the Nutcracker Prince.
I was in the Nutcracker when I was like 5.
And I saw the Nutcracker for the first time live.
We went straight into Nutcracker.
In a way, they're all present on that stage. Every one of them. Their every decision, every contribution, point, plie, and pirouette building up to this very moment. I may be watching the Nutcracker in 2024, but when you watch the New York City Ballet, the most famous ballet company in America, you're also watching 76 years of refined excellence. And now, as those thick velvet curtains sweep to a close, I release the breath I realize I've been holding since they first parted. I'm trying to enjoy the moment, but I'm not sure if I can. Not with all I know now. You see, this isn't just a story about ballet. It's a story about what happens when you give yourself up entirely to something. And what happens when those thick velvet curtains sweep to a close. It's a story about the people who have been up on that famous stage and what happened to them in the shadows of this intricate and exclusive world that I love. From Stack, this is season 3 of Legacy, Dancing with Shadows. Episode 1, The Golden Gates.
I really don't look my age there.
You're really keeping the elf in line.
Oh my god, I'm pulling her around.
You're counting the steps. I think you're counting the steps. You're such a perfectionist.
No, that's so funny. Is that the whole
This story doesn't really begin here, in Galway, a harbour city on Ireland's rugged west coast, my hometown. But in a way, it does. I suppose it started when I first stepped into a ballet class.
Do you remember my first show?
I do remember your first show. I remember you were very excited, but you laughing out on stage, Nicky.
My first show, I was only like a little rosebud.
Yeah, but you were literally, you loved being on stage.
Just over 21 years later, it's a sleepy day, the stove is lit, and I'm curled up on the couch in my family home with my dogs at my feet. I've decided to take out some of my old ballet videos, which until now, admittedly, were piled high on a shelf in our sitting room, gathering dust. My mum, being the typical Irish mammy she is, very reluctantly agreed to being recorded.
Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm. We're not recording just for a sec.
I am.
Why? Sorry.
I'm Nicky Anderson, an investigative journalist and podcast producer. I'm one of 6 kids, and being a typical Irish family, we were all thrown into a litany of sports and activities in the hope that each of us would have something that would stick. I was the only one who chose to continue ballet past the age of 11 or 12. A decision I'm not sure what my parents thought of, even to this day. They never brought it up, so I never asked.
Yeah, I think you were one of these.
I was one of these. There I am!
Oh, you're tiny. The dress is nearly down to your toes. Oh, Nicky, you're so cute. You know, it's a hard thing for a parent because all you want, remember we let you try lots of different things and you loved ballet, but then you were so hard on yourself because you wanted to be the best. Like you were always counting your steps, always making sure you did it right. But then if you saw you upset about not getting a dance right or getting something right, then that was hard because you don't pull someone out of something they love, but if it's causing, but you like.
I was 5 years old when I stepped into a ballet studio, which admittedly wasn't even really a ballet studio, but a hall in my primary school with a ballet bar drilled into the wall. It felt huge to me. I remember the way our laughs would echo across the high ceiling, artwork splayed across the wall as we bounced around on those worn wooden floors. Within a couple of years, our academy moved into a new studio, and I was dancing twice a week. That became 3 times a week. Then by 15, every Sunday, Mum would gather me and whoever of my ballet friends had stayed the night before into the car first thing in the morning to drop us to another 5-hour session.
Well, sometimes people want to dance for fun and for themselves, and they don't want the what's the word?
Do you remember how many times I came out of ballet crying?
Yeah, they don't want.
And you'd be like, Nicky, just quit, and I'd be like, you don't get it, Mum.
Yeah, but you loved it, you see, and the perfection. That's the word. Some people just wanted to go and dance and enjoy it. You see, it was great up until a certain grade.
Now, don't get me wrong. I was neither talented nor committed enough to ever become a professional ballerina. But children don't think like that, do they? My older brother still mocks me about how I used to never take off my academy jumper. About how I thrived when I mysteriously got to leave school early for a ballet exam. Or arrived at a friend's birthday party late, hair still scraped back into a bun because, of course, I just couldn't miss class.
The way I would put it is, if someone going to see the Royal Ballet that loves ballet, that was what it was like for me to go see your daughters.
Oh my God, you're going to cry.
I am going to cry because
I joke about it now, but it's hard to explain to someone how all-consuming it was. When I finally stopped dancing at the age of 17, it was a relief, but also in hindsight, a really sad day. This thing which had defined my youth was suddenly gone.
That's it.
But why I wanted to do this is because me and the girls were chatting, like the girls who I did, like Lauren, who I did ballet with growing up, and we were talking about would we put our kids in ballet, and she said absolutely yes, and I said I wasn't sure because of how it made me feel about my body. And that was also like, we were so lucky that our teachers never put that on me, but that was like an internalized thing I had from being in a leotard every day. I used to always think like, maybe if I was skinnier I'd get that part. Like I was never really in a tutu because I had boobs, and I couldn't be because.
Well, you were just a different build.
That's what I mean.
Girls.
That it's
and
like
you were short. You can blame me for that.
No, but famously, all of the things that don't go hand in hand with ballet, but I still loved it.
As I got older, my fascination with ballet changed. By the time I was 14 or 15, I wasn't flipping the pages of fairy ballerina books anymore. I was tip-tapping my way through the internet, devouring ballet videos on YouTube. I couldn't help but wonder, who were those 10-year-olds who, unlike me, had actually turned that dream into reality? Where were they now? What stages do they stand on? What cities do they wake up in? What was it like to make it?
Today we are talking about going on point.
My name is Isabel Polito. I'm a ballet teacher.
Hi, my name is Scout Forsyth. I'm a professional ballerina with American Ballet Theater, and this week I'm going to show you how I customize and break in my pointe shoes.
For so many, that dream leads to a company. The Royal Ballet, the Bolshoi, American Ballet Theater, and many more prestigious institutions around the world. Places most dancers know they'll never get close to reaching. But one in particular is the pinnacle, the New York City Ballet. To dance there is to have arrived, to embody everything your dream once promised. To live the dream of every dancer, boy or girl, who ever pulled on a pair of tights.
Do you remember the first time you went to New York City Ballet?
Oh yeah, sure.
Tell us
Yeah.
about it.
It was like, oh my God, this dance can be this. To see Balanchine's works for the first time made me feel like, oh, dance is this other, has its place in the world of high culture. That it can be poetry on that level.
Few people have watched New York City Ballet more than Brian Siebert. He's a dance critic who writes regularly for the New York Times and the New Yorker.
When I started training myself as a dance critic, you just go to New York City Ballet a lot, and it's like reading Shakespeare.
In 2005, Brian published a short biography of George Balanchine, the New York City Ballet's most prominent choreographer and artistic director.
The artistic director is the boss, right? The artistic director is making all of the artistic decisions, who to hire, who to promote, who to cast in what roles, which ballets to do, which ballets to bring back from the past, which choreographers to hire. All of those artistic decisions are ultimately the responsibility of the artistic director.
Besides the artistic director and the dancers,
some companies have an orchestra, people who make the costumes.
Then there's support staff, like the ballet masters or mistresses, who teach classes and rehearse dancers and so on.
People who do the lighting, the ushers. It's a complicated organization, especially a big ballet company like New York City Ballet. There must be more than 100 people on the payroll.
It all started back in 1948, when Balanchine co-founded New York City Ballet alongside a rich benefactor called Lincoln Kirstein, and remained its artistic director for more than 35 years.
Well, New York City Ballet is strange, possibly unique, in that it is a major company that was made for one person. It was created for George Balanchine.
Balanchine was 44 when the company was created and worked right until his death in 1983. The company was his life. Balanchine's dream was always to create a ballet company, and Lincoln Kirstein, a man the New Yorker once called the Prince of the City, saw that opportunity, the talent this man possessed, and what it could become.
It's called New York City Ballet, but it easily could be called the George Balanchine Company.
But Balanchine wasn't just a man who wanted to own a ballet company. He was a choreographer the likes of which no one had seen before, and who many say we will never see the talent of again.
He is a genius. I can say he is probably the greatest choreographer ever, right, in the history of the world.
Kirstein said his work was of the divine. Balanchine, this Russian-born visionary, would become the father of American ballet.
He created an American aesthetic.
Over the course of his lifetime, he created more than 460 works that left an indelible mark. Balanchine's productions have been obsessively studied and emulated by aspiring dancers all over the world. After his death, writer Clement Crisp captured the magnitude of his legacy in one sentence. It is hard to think of the ballet world without the colossal presence of George Balanchine.
Though Balanchine's work was clearly in the service of the classical tradition, it was also adventurous and innovative. Time and again, he confounded the audience's expectations. What he was doing was not what they thought of as ballet.
However, this revolutionary age didn't begin with the New York City Ballet. It's well noted in history that before even thinking of creating a company, Balanchine turned to Lincoln Kirstein and said, but first, a school. And so, in 1934, the School of American Ballet was born.
SAB is a vision. It's the vision that Lincoln Kirstein and George Balanchine had for a distinctly American training academy of ballet.
I mean, he had to create a technique for the choreography. He had to develop a way of training dancers. And all of that is entirely fused, right? The classroom for him was the laboratory for the work.
Balanchine wanted students trained in his own style before they could even think of working in his company. And so the New York City Ballet didn't hold open auditions. To enter the company's golden gates, you needed to be in the School of American Ballet. And that meant you needed to be the very best of the very, very best. It's a rule which, with a few exceptions, is still in place to this day.
It does happen every once in a while that they'll bring in somebody from another company. But I believe that around 95% of the company comes out of that school. And that pipeline is very important.
Students from 6 to 18 years old are selected to enter the school based on their ability to reach the highest level of classical ballet achievement, all in the hopes of one day entering the New York City Ballet.
When you're at the School of American Ballet, there is one goal, which is to get into the New York City Ballet. And there are other dancers who graduate from there and have wonderful careers at other companies. But you have to think that that's not what everyone was going for.
It is a remarkable feat to get a place in the school. Over 2,500 students audition for its summer programs each year. Only 200 get in. Of those 200, only 30 will be invited to stay for the winter. There, these young aspiring dancers can really learn from the best there is, because the best there is are right there, across the Lincoln Center. Students watch the New York City Ballet perform at any given opportunity, knowing that one day they could be there too. But out of all the students at SAB, each year only 10 of them will become apprentices with the company.
You have to grow up fast. You're doing an adult activity, really, at an adult level. And of course, there are all kinds of things you sacrifice. Now, I think for most dancers, that's a totally willing sacrifice. And if you ask them, later, would you do it again? Depending on how successful they've been, many would immediately say, of course, this is the thing I love.
If 10-year-old me thought ballet was my life, I really had no idea. And this is why now, the memoirs, the DVDs, and the YouTube videos have become my window into a world I've realized I barely knew. Scrolling through endless videos of dancers, one stands out to me. It's a girl who would be around the same age as I am now. In the video, she's only a teenager. It's an audition from her time at the School of American Ballet. She dances a section of one of George Balanchine's oldest ballets, Apollo. She embodies everything I had ever dreamed of being as a dancer. Light, springy, yet effortlessly in control. Her back arched with a grace that took my breath away. And there was this almost angelic presence about her. Maybe it was her large eyes or her bright blonde hair. For this girl, ballet was her place, her escape.
I was kind of bullied in middle school, and so I would go to dance every day, an hour away with different people, and everyone was just friendly and we had fun.
I'm talking about Alexandra Waterbury, originally from Old Forge, a Farsi little town in upstate New York. Alexandra studied at the School of American Ballet from 2013 to 2016. She is now 27 years old.
It's probably the best school in the country for dance. It's definitely the hardest to get into. It was so overwhelming and just unreal at the time.
That clip of Alexandra speaking is from a Vice interview in 2019. But you see, the only reason why this interview was done, why Alexandra's voice exists online at all, is because of one thing.
Now to that bombshell lawsuit against the New York City Ballet.
I feel hopeless when trying to remember who I am because this has profoundly changed me as a person. I, myself, am lost.
In 2016, while at the School of American Ballet, Alexandra was invited by a donor to the New York City Ballet's prestigious Fall Gala. Sarah Jessica Parker, yes, that Sarah Jessica Parker, is a board member of the New York City Ballet.
Well, I was asked a number of years ago by Peter Martins, who's the ballet master, if I would consider sitting on the board.
She came up with the idea for the ballet's gala in 2012. It has since become an annual highlight that celebrates the worlds of fashion and choreography. Anyone who's anyone is there. It was here amid the shimmering gowns and clinking of champagne glasses that Alexandra met 26-year-old Chase Finley, a principal dancer with New York City Ballet. He was magnetic, a talent whose name was already spoken with hushed reverence in the ballet world. 4 days after the gala, Chase messaged Alexandra on Facebook, asking her out.
You know, being a 19-year-old that grew up watching him since I was 11, I was kind of blown away. So we started dating.
From the outside, Chase and Alexandra were two stars drawn into the same orbit. Both young, talented, and brimming with potential. The kind of golden couple the ballet world dreams of.
Could you ever imagine that Chase would do something like that?
Before we continue, I should say that we reached out to Alexandra Waterbury in the hope of conducting an interview. Unfortunately, due to personal reasons, she was unable to participate. So without being able to speak with her on the record, I sit in my room rewatching the interviews Alexandra gave after what happened. Videos I've now seen countless times. As I watch them, I can't help but think of the girl I saw in that audition video.
The suit was filed by 19-year-old ballerina Alexandra Waterbury, a former student at the School of American Ballet. She claims a dancer she dated shared nude photos and sexually explicit videos of her with other male dancers.
I remember the feeling I had when I first read the news during some idle scrolling on a boring day. I wish so badly I could click back and unread the article. Of the many dark sides of dance I'd read about or experienced myself, this felt entirely different. The woman staring back at the camera now in this Good Morning America report has a deep sadness in her eyes. It's hard to reconcile that this is the same person, that the woman speaking so openly about her trauma is the same girl.
I mean, in the beginning, everything was great and fine. And he was telling me I love you and I care about you. And there were times when I genuinely felt that he did.
Alexandra and Chase had been dating for over a year. One day at Chase's flat, she wanted to check her emails, but she didn't have her laptop. Chase had given her his password, and when Alexandra logged on, the laptop immediately started to sync with Chase's phone. Messages from a group chat began to pop up on Chase's screen. One of the messages contained descriptive language, so Alexandra clicked into the chat. Nothing could have prepared her for what she saw.
He was secretly photographing me while we were being intimate, while we were together. And then I found out that they were sent to 9 men.
In her lawsuit, Waterbury claims she discovered months' worth of emails and text messages, including evidence Finlay had been secretly recording their sex life and sharing the photos and videos with other male dancers. She also alleges in some cases they were shared with donors to the ballet.
On the 9th of October 2017, Chase Finlay shared several explicit images of Alexandra Waterbury in that group chat. He wrote, "I'm trying to get a sex tape with her because I know that shit would sell." The same day, Chase Finlay sent multiple photos of Alexandra, either naked or performing sexual acts, to a former School of American Ballet student. On the 2nd of May 2018, Chase shared 2 more explicit photos. Later, on the 21st of May 2018, Chase sent 36-year-old Amar Ramasar, a principal dancer at the New York City Ballet, images of Alexandra's bare breasts and another of her performing a sexual act. On the 23rd of May 2018, Chase sent another explicit photo of Alexandra to a former SIB student.
The conversations were disgusting, but also some of them were just really heartbreaking. And then I found all the photos of me and was just is there anything else?
Jared Longitano was a founding member of the New York City Ballet's Young Patron Circle, a group of people between 21 and 40 responsible for recruiting future donors for the company. He was also in the group chat. Jared Longitano messaged Chase Finlay and another principal dancer, 26-year-old Zachary Catazero, saying, "We should get half a kilo and pour it over the American Ballet Theatre girls and just violate them. I bet we could tie some of them up and abuse them like farm animals." Chase Finlay responded, "Or like the sluts they are." It was never addressed, but Jared's phrase, "half a kilo," can only be interpreted as a reference to drugs. Jared's lawyer called the messages sexist, gruesome, and obnoxious, but argued in court that since Jared didn't send or receive photos that they know of, he couldn't be held responsible for Alexandra Waterbury's alleged harm. Chase Finley resigned from the New York City Ballet in August of 2018. You can easily find interviews with Chase and Amar on YouTube. In fact, they feature prominently in an AOL original series all about the City Ballet that's been viewed almost 5 million times.
We're all different spices in the cabinet, right. You know? It's a brotherhood. I mean, it's like, you know...
We have each other's back.
We have each other's back. It's awesome to be a male dancer.
Yeah. No, it actually is.
Image-based sexual abuse is the act of sharing an intimate photo of another individual without their consent. Sometimes known by its stated term, revenge porn, it means that sending nude, partially nude, or sexually explicit images of someone without their permission online, or forwarding private photos via text would all be considered image-based sexual abuse. In New York City and state, it's illegal to share or threaten to share someone's intimate images to cause harm. The point I'm getting at is this could have been a criminal case filed against Chase and the other men in the group chat, but Alexandra chose a different path. To her, this wasn't just about the toxic behavior of one group of men. Alexandra was alleging that the New York City Ballet had, for decades, allowed this kind of behavior to go unchecked.
She alleges the ballet fostered a fraternity-like atmosphere where he, along with other male dancers, employees, and donors, shared sexually explicit images of her without her consent.
They all encouraged, endorsed, incited, instigated, ratified Mr. Finley's unlawful conduct.
On the 4th of September 2018, through her lawyers, Alexandra Waterbury filed her case to the Supreme Court of the State of New York against New York City Ballet and then her ex-boyfriend Chase Finley. On the 15th of September, the New York City Ballet fired Amar Ramasar and Zachary Casazero. In an Instagram statement, Zachary Casazero expressed deep disappointment over his termination, saying he had worked his whole life to become a principal dancer and that he had been dedicated to the company for 11 years. He stated he was not involved in sharing Alexandra Waterbury's personal material and that the communications he was suspended for happened outside of work hours. In his final lines, Zachary wrote that he hoped his contract would be reinstated. In his own Instagram statement, Amar Ramasar said that he felt it was unfortunate that we live in a time where allegations are taken as fact, and that he was not in any way part of that group chat. He continued by saying the messages exchanged between him and Chase Finley were private and sent on personal time outside of work. He said all photos were of his own sexual activity and were taken with consent from the other adults involved. However, he did say that he took responsibility for his part in this. The lawsuit claimed that New York City Ballet allowed a harmful fraternity-like culture to thrive, where drinking, drug use, and mistreatment of women became normal. It accused the company of not only allowing this behavior, but encouraging it. There were 20 charges in total.
You see, so straight after the three male dancers were fired, New York City Ballet's chairman, Charles W. Scharf, released this statement. He said, New York City Ballet believes that the behavior of the three dancers named in the lawsuit is abhorrent and totally unacceptable. Once New York City Ballet was made aware of the allegations, we immediately investigated them and found that the actions had violated the company's norms of conduct and disciplinary action was taken against the dancers involved.
Against the dancers though, but why did the dancers feel like they could act that way? Like it's not normal for three grown men.
And firing them doesn't remove the root of the problem, right?
The lawsuit argued that New York City Ballet is responsible for systematically creating an environment where abuse could happen, specifically to women. As we dug deeper into this, we began to realize the true scale of Alexandra's claims. Beneath the glowing reviews, prestigious awards, and endless praise, there were darker stories at New York City Ballet. Ones that, until now, I had no idea existed.
New York City Ballet and School of American Ballet have launched an investigation after an anonymous letter accused longtime New York City Ballet leader Peter Martins of sexual harassment.
Some revolved around the company's most recent ballet master-in-chief, Peter Martins. a man who had essentially spent his entire adult life within the company, dancing for George Balanchine for 16 years before he took the reins of the company himself for another 35 years.
You wrote recently an op-ed for Dance Magazine, and in it you wrote, "Am I a victim of Martin's abuse? Yes. Was it sexual? Yes. Was it consensual? No."
In December 2017, after an anonymous letter sent to the School of American Ballet, the New York City Ballet launched an investigation into Peter Martins. Dancers within the company had accused him of physical, sexual, and verbal assault. There were also claims he had used his power to obtain sexual favors. Peter Martins fiercely denied the allegations, saying, "These allegations against me, incidents that purportedly took place decades ago, are spurious and completely untrue. To suggest lewd or unprofessional conduct on my part is reprehensible, and I vehemently deny these allegations." He added that the claims were creating a distraction for New York City Ballet and the School of American Ballet, and that out of his love and dedication to both institutions, he requested a temporary leave of absence until the independent investigation was complete. While the investigation was still ongoing, Peter Martins retired in January 2018. In his letter of resignation, he said that he fully cooperated with the investigation and believed the outcome would clear his name. He said the accusations in the letter had taken a painful toll on him and his family, and that he was retiring to put an end to the disruption.
In 1992, he was charged with third-degree assault by his ballerina wife, Darcy Kissler, although the charges were later dropped.
So you need to stay aware of what actually happens in the ballet world, the professional ballet world.
Other claims went to the very core of the organization, to the man before Peter Martins, all the way to the very beginning, to the co-founder, the man for whom the entire company was created, the greatest choreographer who ever lived, the artistic director who reshaped American ballet in his own image, George Balanchine.
I remember growing up in dance, I always had a teacher talk about how Balanchine ruined ballet for women.
I have opinions about toxicity and abuse and some of those not so great things that sometimes show up in the dance world or historically have shown up. Right in there, we had a moment where we realized you and I should have a discussion about George Balanchine.
Balanchine, you're 16, they hold all the power for you to have the thing that you've worked so hard for from the time you're 5 years old, and then you get there and you finally make it to this great world-class dance company and your life depends on this person. Are you going to upset the king? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Photos and videos of other girls, some of them members of the New York City Ballet, were also shared in that group chat. I couldn't stop thinking about these women. I read everything I could find about Alexandra, watched every video, and then I came across this one, the Vice interview. It's called Alexandra Waterbury on Sexual Exploitation in Ballet.
So what do we have all here?
These are just like point shoes.
It was posted on the 29th of March, 2019 by Vice Life. At the time of recording, it has over 1.5 million views. The person interviewing Alexandra is Amanda Knox, someone who faced her own media storm and public judgment in 2015. The most striking moment in the video comes at the very end, when Alexandra stands gazing at the Lincoln Center. There's a quiet intensity in her voice as she says,
A place that's so concrete and so large, I shook it. And imagine if any of the other women had come forward. Or if they do, they still can. It could change everything.
It's hard to watch that interview back. In September 2020, the Manhattan Supreme Court Justice dismissed 19 of the 20 claims in Alexandra Waterbury's lawsuit. The judge determined that New York City Ballet dancers Zachary Cachazero and Amar Ramasar and patron Jared Longitano could not be held responsible for the actions of Chase Finley. In addition, the judge found that neither the company or the School of American Ballet had been negligent in their handling of the situation. The judge said they owed no duty of care to Alexandra as she was no longer a student at the school. The sole remaining claim allowed to proceed was against Chase Finley himself for distributing the photos. By this time, the New York City Ballet had already been told to rehire Amar and Zachary, following a challenge by the main union representing ballet dancers, the American Guild of Musical Artists. The union argued that the accusations against them, quote, relate entirely to non-work-related activity and do not rise to the level of just cause termination, end quote. Non-work-related activity. However, the work they're talking about relies so deeply on personal and intimate partnerships between men and women.
It takes true artistry to make a woman feel that safe on stage while she's trying to do all these different things. You just have to have that trust.
Here, in that AOL original series I mentioned earlier, executive produced by Sarah Jessica Parker, Chase Finley and Amar Ramasar speak about what it means to be a good ballet partner.
Because it's not about you. It's about making the woman look beautiful.
At the foundation of any good partnership is trust.
Our personal lives have nothing to do with it. You're in love with this person, you hate this person right now, the audience doesn't care.
When the American Guild of Musical Artists made their appeal, what message did it send to female dancers? To the women who then had to partner these men? To the women who had to trust them through dangerous lifts? To the women who had to feel their hands on their waists every day? Zachary chose not to return. However, in 2019, Amar did. The company only allowed him to do so if he received rehabilitation counselling. In 2020, Amar starred in West Side Story on Broadway. A petition was signed by more than 50,000 people for his removal from the cast. Protesters gathered outside the theatre, brandishing placards which quoted some of the text exchanged between the men in the group chat. One read, "Sexual predators shouldn't get leading roles on Broadway," while across another were the plain words, "We stand with Alexandra Waterbury." Alexandra herself was present. Her placard read, "Still not your farm animal."
I hope that we can set the precedent that Broadway is no place for a sex offender. There's no place in the spotlight for a sex offender, and men who abuse their power will face consequences for it.
Amar Ramasar's girlfriend, Alexa Maxwell, a New York City Ballet core dancer whose nude photos he had shared 2 years earlier in that group chat, to many people's surprise, publicly defended him. In an interview, she claimed he had apologized many times, she had forgiven him, and that it was a misstep in judgment. At this point, only one charge in the case remained against Chase Finley. In 2022, the charges against New York City Ballet for negligent hiring and retention were reinstated. But after that, everything went quiet. In February 2023, Alexandra made the decision to drop the charges against both Chase Finley and New York City Ballet permanently. There were no new reports after that. Everyone, it seemed, had moved on. The ballet world kept turning. We approached New York City Ballet for comment. While they said they could not comment on personal recollections from previous eras, they noted that in step with society at large, the New York City Ballet had evolved in numerous ways over the last 5 decades, with a current leadership that promotes practices that create a culture of professionalism, health, and well-being. They cited formal apprentice mentorship, wellness programs, educational and financial aid programs as examples, and stated that a safe and respectful work environment is central to the company's mission. The sun is setting over New York as we begin our descent into the city that feels like the art capital of the world. I've got that feeling in my stomach, the one that feels like your gut is clenched into a tight, unforgiving ball with your fight or flight instincts wrestling against each other. But now we're here, and let's be real, a flight back is no longer an option.
Hello. Hi Brian, it's Finn and Nicky.
He said come
on.
Oh. I suppose with a company like New York City Ballet, it has had controversies that we say. How do you think them as an actual institution handled them?
Historically, not very well.
Mm.
It's a closed institution.
Do you think that's indicative to the wider dance world?
Sure. I mean, and
wider
the strange nature of ballet companies too, that they are these closed systems, a little cult-like.
Up until now, New York City Ballet is a world we've only known through the yellowed pages of memoirs, YouTube videos, or pixelated Instagram throwbacks. It was a world so starkly different from our own, it almost didn't feel real. To try and understand this complex company, to pick apart its complicated history, I need to speak to the people who are really there.
I am eternally grateful for that man.
He killed all of those dreams for me in that one moment.
I became his protege and he became my father.
It shows humanity, and it wasn't there at that time.
I felt not safe, and I wasn't really safe.
It really always felt like family to me.
It was everything that I dreamed of. Everything. Beyond what I dreamed.
It makes me think of what Brian said about his first time watching the New York City Ballet, when he realized that dance could be poetry. I felt that too. That feeling of being pulled into something, of seeing something that almost feels too good to be true. When that case came out, what were your initial thoughts?
The main concern was that, is this a picture of some kind of internal rot? Is this a picture of something inside the culture that I don't have access to that is really problematic?
Do you ever feel like you got kind of closure on that?
No.
So this is where we are, in the heart of New York City, about to spend the next few weeks running across not just the state, but also the country, trying to find dancers from every generation to hear about their relationship to dance, their experience in this world-leading company, and to finally step behind the curtain.
My name is Betty Jane Sills.
My name is Edward Villela.
Who am I? Allegra Jack.
Yes, okay, John Clifford.
Wilhelmina Frankfurt.
My name is Catherine Morgan.
My name is Sterling Hilteen.
Susan Pillar.
Tess Reichland.
Call me Victor Jordan Ostrovsky.
I'm Chase Finley.
We're going to step away from the headlines and the news reports and get to the heart of this company. We're going to understand it from the people who were there, finally hearing their truth. Because where light shines, darkness lingers. And when we fail to address the failings of our past, those shadows will never go away. They wait, ever present, until we face them again. This time, center stage. On this season of Dancing with Shadows.
He really demanded allegiance to him.
Because I said, he's George frickin' Balanchine. I said, his brain is gone. If it makes him happy, to cop a feel, then what the hell?
It was mob rule and cancel culture. And it still is.
I knew that there was something, that I had done something really terrible.
If you have nothing nice to say, keep your mouth shut. I mean, how many years later, why do you want to do that?
When she put her court summons forward, she said that New York City Ballet has condoned, encouraged, fostered, and permitted an environment where agents, servants, employees, donors, principals, and others affiliated with abused, degraded, and mistreated alcohol, drugs, and women. What do you think of that?
I think it's an incredible statement and the truth. It's the truth.
Dancing with Shadows is a Stack production. It was written by me, Nicky Anderson, and co-produced by myself and Finn Ranson. Our assistant producer and fact-checker was Holly Morris. Original theme music, additional music, and sound design by Tom Wally. Our script editor was Sam Diss. Executive production by Luke Moore, John Teague, and Charlie Morgan.
Legacy is a Stack production and part of the Acast Creation Network.